Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We're so excited to welcome you all to the Clinical Legal Education Association's 2021 awards ceremony. We wish we could be with you all in person, especially I'm here in St. Louis where we were supposed to be all here in person. So I welcome you virtually, but from St. Louis. I'm Lauren Bartlett, co-president of the Clinical Legal Education Association with Anju Gupta. Again, just so excited to give out some really wonderful awards to such deserving awardees today. So excited to have you with us. And I'll turn it over to Anju. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. And yeah, I agree. This is, one of my favorite events of the year. And I'm not only co-president of CLEA with Lauren this year, but also serve on the awards committee. So I get the immense pleasure of reading all of the amazing nominations every year. And as always, the nominations for this year were incredibly humbling, but also inspiring to read. I wanted to start out by thanking the awards committee. Keely Stewart and Jane Stover are on this call. They're the co-chairs of the awards committee. And then also Delora Hughes from Irvine, Praveen Kosori from Penn, and Perry Moriarty from Minnesota are also on the awards committee. So thank you all for your hard work. And I know it's fun work putting this ceremony and selecting the recipients.
And I also want to just chime in and thank our executive board for the Clinical Legal Education Association today for all their help over the past 4 months and going forward into this year, not only with the award ceremony, but all sorts of things. They've put in a lot of hard work already. So Anju, of course, but Shova Mahadev with Northwestern, Caitlin Berry, who's at Villanova, Jody Balsam, our new secretary at Brooklyn, Delora Hughes, our treasurer at Irvine, and Kendall Carew, who is our immediate past president at Georgia State. Thank you so much. And also our communications committee, who's been so hard pushing out information about this award ceremony, our new clinicians conference coming up in a couple of weeks, Chair Michael Murphy at Penn, and committee members Jeff Baker, Catherine Banks, Shante Brantley, and Jody Balsam. Thank you all so much.
And now we'd like to turn it over to our amazing chairs of the awards committee, Jane Stover and Keely Stewart. Take it away.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anju and Lauren, for your tireless and inspired leadership in such a challenging year. And we all know that this was an unbelievably hard year in all of the ways that we're aware of. And students and faculty were advocating, organizing, litigating, and learning from places of trauma, anger, pain, and awareness and experience of social injustice. And our awards committee, as Lauren and Anju mentioned, joined here with Keely, Anju, Delora, Praveen, and Perry. Our awards committee, we were amazed and inspired by so many of the nominations that we received for the impactful work that you and your students are doing to address deep community needs, advance social justice, and further clinical education in such necessary and important ways. And of course, you and your students found ways to show up in your community, for your community, your clients, and with each other. And we celebrate and thank everyone here who's participating in this conference and beyond. And today we get to award some very special awards. The CLEA Award to an Outstanding Advocate for Clinical Teachers that recognizes an individual who has served as a voice for clinical teachers and has contributed to the advancement of experiential legal education. And the CLEA Award for Excellence in a Public Interest Case or Project that celebrates work addressing high priority needs and advances justice. And I'm going to share a couple slides just to give us some visuals as we are moving forward. Here, thanking our great awards committee members and the awards that we have today that we are celebrating. And a special reminder right now of the CLEA Student Awards, because we all know that our students, we have extraordinary and courageous students that have done amazing and hard things this year. And so we want to take a special moment to remind you about the CLEA Student Awards, with each school being able to identify a clinic student or team. And this year, a new award that we'll have from this year going forward, the CLEA Outstanding Externship Student Award. You have until May 31st to do this, and make sure that you have this in mind as you have your next experiential learning faculty meetings. And we'll recirculate the Google Forms link, but it's so easy to just go to that link and to carry this out. So for the awards during today's program, we're going to start with the Outstanding Advocate for Clinical Teachers Award. Our committee was moved by the group nomination that came from dozens of clinicians, highlighting so many of the contributions to clinical legal education by Bob Kewen, Associate Dean for Clinical Education and Professor of Law at Washington University in St. Louis School of Law. Bob has advocated for all of us by co-founding the Center for the Study of Applied Legal Education, CSAIL, through his research and scholarship on many of the most pressing questions and challenges to clinical legal education, his role in addressing political interference, and his service in teaching in so many different capacities. What I think is really remarkable also is he's done these great things, but also he's given us the tools to be able to advocate within our own schools and our own communities. And I think of how often I have turned to the CSAIL data and to Bob's scholarship, and I hope that you are too, to more fully introduce Bob Kewen as the recipient of this award. It is my great pleasure to introduce you to Peter Joy, past president of CLEA, the Henry Hitchcock Professor of Law, and director of the Criminal Justice Clinic at WashU Law. It's a friend, colleague, and collaborator of Bob's. So thank you, Peter, and congratulations, Bob.
Thank you very much, Jane. And also I want to especially thank Lauren and Anju and the rest of the leadership of CLEA for all of their hard work that they're doing. CLEA is the truly advocate award recipient in a way for all of the work that CLEA continues to do. I also want to thank the awards committee in recognizing Bob in this way. I know it's so difficult to choose any individual clinical faculty member or program project because we're such a collaborative community doing such important work. But Bob this year is the Outstanding Advocate for Clinical Teachers. In those two words, outstanding and advocate, really define Bob, who's doggedly supported clinical faculty and promoted clinical legal education in every way possible for decades now. He's done organizational work, as Jane mentioned, former president of CLEA. He's been on about every AALS committee that has ever done anything concerning clinical legal education. But before I talk a little bit more about some of Bob's efforts, and definitely keeping within my 5 minutes, I want to do a little time travel back to when Bob started clinical teaching. It was 1989, and he was directing the environmental law clinic at Tulane, and he was really focusing on environmental justice and also environmental racism. He was writing in that area. And then in the late 1990s, Bob's clinic started representing a citizens group in a primarily African-American community, trying to block yet another petrochemical plant in an area known as Cancer Alley. And that's when big business enlisted the aid of the governor and even some of Tulane alumni to put pressure on the law school and to force the clinic off the case. Well, Dean Sherman, the dean at Tulane at that time, did not back down. and certainly Bob and the rest of the faculty at the clinic did not back down. And they gained a lot of national press. And I'd like to hear a little bit about the case from what was available at the press at the time. So here we go.
So the residents who did not want the new plant turned not to lawyers, but to law students at Tulane Law School's Environmental Law Clinic. Professor Bob Kuhn was the director.
We decided that one of our obligations as lawyers is to try to provide legal assistance to those who can't afford it. They were sincere. These were serious issues that should be heard, and so we decided we'd help them.
Law clinics give students real-life experience and poor people a shot at justice.
The students were marvelous.
Yeah, so that's just a taste. Anybody interested, I have a Frontline series, CBS Eyes on the News, and that was from 60 Minutes. There were also articles that were in the Wall Street Journal, and they properly characterized this as a fight of David versus Goliath. And I think that's what we all are doing in all of our work with our students. In Bob's taste of an attack on academic freedom, especially against clinical faculty, I think was what really energized him to start to become an advocate for all of us and for clinical education. And along the way, somehow or another, he either authored or co-authored an astounding 11 articles about academic freedom in the academy, and especially for clinical teachers and those doing environmental work. He's also authored several articles that were empirically based, some of it based on CCEL data, but a lot of it concerning independent empirical work that Bob has done, setting out to debunk a lot of the myths, or I should say canards, that we often hear about clinical education. So he's helped to demonstrate, along with David Moss from Wayne State, that taking clinical courses do not negatively affect exam bar outcomes. He's demonstrated that universal clinical education is feasible and affordable, and that clinical legal education is not the driver for high-cost law school tuition. So whenever you hear anybody raise one of those myths, just turn to one of Bob's articles and maybe teach them a lesson or two. Bob has also, as Jane mentioned, been very involved in organizational work, so I'm not going to repeat any of that. But I do want to emphasize that Bob has been the co-author of 5 reports based on the CCEL surveys. In addition to that, and I think Jane may have hinted to that, that Bob has also personally provided data to dozens, and I don't know, maybe it's over 100 individuals to help them with negotiations over issues of status, salary, and expansion of both in-house and externship programs. Bob's also done dozens of presentations at national conferences. He's going to do, or has done one here already, and he's done them at regionals. And if that has not been enough, here locally, he's really expanded our program. He's been both a teacher in the in-house clinical program and externships. And one of the supporting letters in Bob's nomination came from Meg Reiter and Sue Schechter, who are big externship advocates, and they pointed out how Bob has been an advocate for all of us in clinical education. And I'd like to actually acknowledge and thank CLEA for giving us at least an opportunity to give out 2 awards to students this year, one for in-house clinic student and externship. It's difficult enough for us to choose one, so at least we get 2. So I hope everyone will join me in congratulating Bob. We don't expect him to stop now. This is just a little recognition along the way. So thank you, Bob.
Well, with that, from St. Louis, I will second Lauren's greeting. You can see I got out of my bathrobe to come to the arch. I put on a St. Louis Cardinals t-shirt, and I want to make sure that you being in St. Louis isn't lost on you this year. So I want to particularly thank Peter for those very kind but exaggerated words, and also the CCL board and each of my 20 sneaky WashU colleagues for secretly nominating me. And I want to particularly give a shout out to my assistant, Katie Herr, who I understand thought of nominating me, and whose incredible skills and dedication give me the time to do the work people are making such a fuss about today. It's fitting Peter nominated me because he's really the reason I'm receiving this award. As he suggested about 25 years ago, I was at Tulane, 2 governors were trying to get my environmental law clinic shut down and me fired. At this point, I was very much operating in my own little clinic island, largely clueless of anything beyond my school or Lowell up the street. But upon hearing about the attacks on my clinic, Peter, out of the blue, as well as Chuck Weiselberg, now at UC Berkeley, contacted me on behalf of the AALS Clinical Section Political Interference Group, PIG, as we like to call ourselves, to offer help. And shortly after, bringing along CLEA and SALT as well. And through their help, my clinic was able to beat back the efforts to shut us down. And it opened up for me, though, a really new world of clinical colleagues and possibilities for work and advocacy work across the country. And you know what? Ever since then, I feel like I've just been playing it forward, playing forward the help that was so generously given by others in the clinical community in my time of need. And I've just been really very fortunate that I had the status at different schools and the deans and colleagues at those schools to enable the work that I've done. I was hired at Tulane by John Kramer, who had come from Georgetown, was an enormous proponent of clinics, that helped me a lot. It was once said of him that if he passed a pool of water and saw the water was utterly calm, he simply had to pick up rocks and toss in the water to make waves. And surely any of those you know about him is true. And you know what? Boy, did he encourage me in my early years to do what I felt is right and represent clients without worried about the waves. And it allowed me and some great colleagues at Tulane, including Lisa Jordan, to do what I needed to do and to make those waves. And I was then very fortunate to teach at University of Alabama with wonderful colleagues like Ann Hornsby and Hugh Lee and Susan Donovan and others under a terrific dean, Ken Randall, who's now at George Mason. And, you know, thinking back, I can't recall a single time when Dean Randall ever said no to me when I came up with an idea about a clinical program or some money to go to a conference to talk on advocacy. But man, he was a master at taking my sometimes, you know, unformed and kind of wild ideas and putting into something that was workable. And I'm ever so grateful for my prior dean here at WashU, Kent Severud, and I'm sure the hand of both Peter and Karen Tokars in bringing me here. And to my current dean, Dean Stout, who I can't say enough about, a person who's ever so kindly and skillfully watches my back when I don't know it's being exposed, and who patiently bites her tongue. Sometimes I know very hard when really I should be keeping my mouth shut and biting mine. And in journeying off my little island, you know, over the past 25 years, I've really worked with some incredible people at CLEA on these advocacy issues. Kate Cruz, when she was president, Ian Weinstein, who made an offhand comment about it's not like schools that charge more in tuition, provide more clinical spots. It led to my research debunking, as Peter said, the tuition is being driven by clinic issue. Kim Diana Connolly, another CLEA president, who made an offhand comment about, you know, externships and bar pass that allowed me to debunk that. And man, I can't thank enough. And I so dearly miss you, Claudia Angelos, my partner in crime at NYU, on so many CLEA comments. She takes my verbose, you know, ramblings and crafts them into the sort of professional looking comments that it really moved the needle for CLEA. And I absolutely would not be getting this award without my running mate at CCL, David Santa Croce at the University of Michigan. 15 years ago, when he and I were on a AALS task force on the status of clinical teachers, he said, you know, we need some data. We need real data on clinics, externships, clinical teachers. And so CCL was born by David, with me tagging along on his vision and energy. And I owe so much to him for bringing me along on this journey, and appreciate the help now that Meg Reuter at University of Missouri, Kansas City is giving us. But you know, finally, I want to give thanks for this award to the number I looked up yesterday, 1,326 people, basically you in the audience, who filled out our last CCEL survey, because through your tolerance of my badgering to fill out the damn thing, and through your patience in wandering through question after question, you are in essence advocating for clinical legal education, because your time in filling out the survey and supplying information provides what's needed for all of us and you yourself to push for improvements in your program. But you know, I just read that cicadas are back this year. I expect billions of them after their 17 years hiatus. And you know what? CCEL is kind of like cicadas. We come back every 3 years. And our next cycle is in October 2022. And you know, I live by CCEL and my countdown clock, which shows me that your freedom is going to be ending in 44,865,382, 80 seconds. So enjoy it while you can. Thank you so much for your help. Thank you for everyone who nominated me, helping me on this journey. I'm going to quiet because I'm so looking forward to hearing about the next awardees. Take it away, Keely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bob, and congratulations. Let me join in that standing ovation that we would be doing if we were in person. I am one of the people that actually regularly goes to Bob for CCEL data, and I've cited your scholarship when advocating for resources at my own school, and I know that you've supported me personally as well, so I can attest to all of the things that we've already heard about you. So once again, congratulations to you, Bob. And so now I have the pleasure of introducing on behalf of CLEA and presenting the award for excellence in a public interest case or project to the 6 clinics at 5 law schools that collaborated on the Irwin County Detention Center project. I remember I was driving in my car listening to NPR when I first heard about the shocking gynecological procedures that were performed without consent on women in immigration detention. And I remembered thinking, what a crazy injustice to be happening in our current time. And I had no idea at the time that our fellow clinicians were leading the fight to right this terrible injustice. And so the awards committee really reached a clear consensus, and were impressed not only by the range of advocacy tools that this group used and the way that students were involved in every aspect of the work, but by the very sophisticated collaboration that I think will be a model for all of us going forward on how to do cross-clinic work. And so the clinicians leading this work are on your screen: Sabi Ardalan at Harvard, Jason Cade at University of Georgia School of Law, Fatma Maroof, Texas A&M School of Law, Alora Mukherjee, Columbia Law School, Claire Norrens at University of Georgia School of Law, and Sarah Sherman Stokes at Boston University School of Law. And as good clinicians do, they've actually ceded most of their time today so that you can hear about this work through their clients, one client story, and through the voices of their clinic students. And so we're going to play 2 videos that will run together for about 13 minutes, and we'll let them tell you in their own words about this amazing work. And then Alora will accept the award on behalf of the group.
Okay, thank you so very much, Keely, and to the CLEA Awards Committee. And thank you also to Anju and to Lauren for your inspirational and tireless leadership. So all of us who worked on this project, Sabi, Jason, Fatma, Claire, Sarah, and I are amazingly grateful for this honor. And we want to say at the outset that this project has been a massive collaborative effort centered on the needs of the people who have been and who are currently detained at the Irwin County Detention Center in rural Georgia, about 3 hours outside of Atlanta. So as Keely mentioned, we're going to share 2 videos with you. The first is an excerpt from a BBC documentary that features the experiences of Wendy Dow, who is a witness in the federal litigation that we have collectively brought. And the second video showcases some of our students and their experiences working on this project together. So I'm going to share the first video now.
Thing I remember is waking up back in Irwin County Detention Center with feeling woozy. When I feel I got like 3 different bandages on my stomach. So I'm like, what went on? What's up? If I knew half the stuff that happened to me in America would happen, I wouldn't go. I moved to the US when I was like 26 years old. Jamaica is very violent. A lot of stuff going on down here. Violently, my brother died, and shortly after that, I left. Fear for my life. While living in the US, because I was undocumented, so you gotta be doing under the table jobs and all of that to survive. ICE came that Friday morning and picked me up and take me to where I was like 3.5 hours away, to Irwin County. From there, my life took a turn for the worse. I have terrible cramps when I'm on my cycle, and I was bleeding extra heavy. So one morning, 5 o'clock, they woke me up that I'm going outside to a doctor. Before I went out, they shackled my arms, my waist, my feet. They took me to this doctor, Dr. Admin. Even while you're in the room, undressed, the guards sit there watching you. Remember, we're in shackle. Where we going? Where we going for? I feel humiliated, and I feel like I don't have no say-so over my life. I don't have no say-so over my body. It's like I'm just an open book. You do whatever you want to do to me. He started to give me like sonogram or ultrasound, whatever that is. And he told me that I got a lot of cysts and I had a mass in my ovary. They took me to the Irwin County Hospital. They told me that I'm gonna have surgery. I'm like, what type of surgery? But I was too weak to even argue with them or ask them any question. The only thing I remember is waking up back in Irwin County Detention Center. Try to get up, I feel pain. When I feel I got like 3 different bandages on my stomach. So I'm like, what went on? What's up?
The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists was asked to provide several physicians who could review cases of women at the ICE detention center, and I was one of 5 physicians. I received Wendy's medical records, and when I reviewed them, they certainly seemed in disarray. First thing I wanted to do was rule out pregnancy, but Wendy had her tubes tied, so the next thing I want to do is ask her, how long has this been going on? That wasn't documented. Within weeks, he recommended surgery, and I think that was very aggressive and inappropriate. These appeared to be the normal kinds of functional cysts. At least 25 to 50% of women have fibroids that they develop before they go into menopause, and women can treat them easily without surgery.
told me my mass is big as a cantaloupe. He said you got cancer.
According to Dr. Amin's notes dictated 2.5 weeks before her scheduled admission, the patient requested removal of both tubes and ovaries, and then he reviewed the possible complications and wrote, "She understands and agrees for the surgery." Much of the record is illegible.
They want to send me to the psychiatrist. Me saying that I don't need any hysterectomy doesn't mean I'm crazy.
So unfortunately, the experiences of Wendy Dow are representative and emblematic of the experiences that dozens and dozens of other women experienced at the Irwin County Detention Center. And I know that documentary was a real low. So now we're going to share our students speaking about the experiences of working on this project.
One thing that I'm really taking away is the connection and inspiration from the woman that I was able to work with. I worked predominantly with two women who were at Irwin, one who is now in Georgia trying to seek a T visa, and another who was deported in retaliation for speaking out. And working with her in particular, helping her get immigration relief and try to be paroled back into the US. Her story has just been so empowering, and her commitment to really fighting for justice, fighting against Irwin, fighting to get the facility shut down, even after she's been deported for speaking out, for being one of the first women included in the Project South report that broke the story of all the abuses happening at Irwin. And that's something that seeing these clients and seeing their commitment to advocacy really empowers me and fuels me as a law student and future immigration attorney to really advocate for our clients and let their voices, carry the advocacy and carry the stories and, bring to life their experience in all the work that we do.
This really gave us the opportunity to fit what lawyering for change looks like within the broader framework for migrant justice, right? We in law school are obviously taught about the legal possibilities, about the ways that we can use our legal education to better the world. And sometimes that can be really disconnected from all these other movements for justice that are on the ground. And this was such an incredible opportunity to really learn about the ecosystem. It wasn't just about this one discrete case or this one discrete client, but it was really pulling everything together. I am so incredibly grateful for the opportunity to have learned from the organizers on the ground, without whom none of what we did would have been possible, who were so tireless in serving us. We drafted those declarations, but they're the ones who took them in, got them signed. They're the ones who mapped out where the women were, helped us get in contact with them. I mean, none of this would have been possible without them. I think about all the organizations that stepped in. There are people who have institutionally been doing this work for years, and for us to be able to come and really plug into this broader network and see how much we could contribute beyond just our narrow scope was absolutely phenomenal. Just from a purely educational perspective, I cannot think of a single more meaningful educational experience I've had in law school. And I think that this is something that is absolutely going to inform all the work that I do going forward. I think it's always so important as lawyers to remember that legal solutions are not the end all be all, and that we can't unfortunately fix everything with creative lawyering. We need policy advocates. We need people who can liaise with Congress, who can get congressional pressure, who can work with the media. We need to do media advocacy, because at the end of the day, we're just one piece of the puzzle, and having this opportunity to put it all together was just unlike anything else. And I'm so grateful that I got to be a piece of it.
So I really enjoyed getting the exposure of detention work. I mean, I went in knowing that it would be really emotional and it wasn't anything like I could have imagined. Obviously, I chose the Freyhut Mass Release Project because I disagree with the just mass incarceration, mass detention of immigrants, especially immigrants of color. And it just really showed that just the underlying causes of detention, like the results of mass incarceration, mass policing, and just the inadequate access to proper legal representation. So it was a common story among all the detainees that I talked to, and they were just the most grateful people that I've ever talked to. So it was just really great to having that exposure and seeing their experiences and trying to make the best case that we could. Even if we couldn't get the release, it was great to try to do the best that we could for them. And so hopefully I can take what I've learned and use that in the future to help more people.
Prior to this case, I thought of the different kinds of advocacy as being more siloed than they actually are. Like, I thought congressional advocacy versus media strategy versus trial litigation were separate things. But this case has really shown that they need to come together a lot of the time, particularly in kind of broad, complex systems like the immigration system. So this case has covered health law and First Amendment law and immigration law. And I think it's clear from this case that as lawyers, we have the tools to make people's lives better, and we should all be working to do that.
As far as how this work has influenced my goals, I think this was the first time that I've actually worked directly with clients. And it was also the first time that I worked with people that were impacted by both our country's immigration system and criminal legal system. And it really helped me realize that I want to spend a significant part of my career working on policy change. It just, I've heard about some of these stories in the headlines, but actually getting to work with people who have directly experienced the abuses of our government has just inspired me to, continue fighting alongside them. I've also really just been inspired by the work ethic and creativity of all of the different actors involved in this project. Others have mentioned getting to see the role that lawyers play, as well as community organizers and the clients themselves, has just been super inspiring. So I'm excited to maybe one day work on on another project of a similar scale and, that's having impact like this.
I think this work has influenced my professional goals, and that I've learned so much from the women at Irwin themselves about what it means to be a successful advocate. So the women were in a position where their voices were being silenced, and they were so creative in the ways that they built community and shared their stories. They were always looking for more women to help. They released a YouTube video online when they knew that it would cause consequences, and it did. And they taught me that in order to be a successful advocate or a successful lawyer or a successful person just interested in pursuing justice, I need to embody the characteristics that they exemplified so well in advocating for themselves. So I need to be creative. I don't need to just look at the law as set. I need to build community with people who are different than me, who have different skill sets, and I must be brave in the way that they were in pursuing what's right and sharing the stories of people who've been harmed.
It was just such an incredible project to be a part of because of all the law schools and different clinics in different states that we got to meet with and strategize with. It was nice to be able to get out of your own school bubble and connect and learn from other clinics and other students who had expertise in different areas of the law or even different types of immigration relief. And it was, it's been really wonderful to connect to a community of lawyers and a community of schools who are working on this together.
So first, credit where it's due. Claire Norrens facilitated those conversations with the students, and Jason Cade integrated them and edited them for this video. Jason also played the instrumental music at the very end of the video on his fiddle, and the music is based on a traditional freedom spiritual song. And in my view, it's hard to add to the powerful videos that you just watched, so I will keep my remarks brief. Our collective clinics first got involved in the work at Irwin through individual representation of women who were being subjected to non-consensual gynecological procedures and surgeries. The Trump administration was accelerating the deportations of women who were speaking out, literally deporting and destroying the evidence needed for a meaningful investigation. And in the face of these very real risks, the women organized, they supported one another, and they resolved to shine light on the medical abuses and other abuses taking place at Irwin. And our clinics have collectively tried to honor and represent these women through federal litigation, administrative advocacy efforts, congressional outreach, media work, and forthcoming reports. Since the fall, our clinical work has expanded beyond just representing the women who are subjected to medical abuse. Since then, we are now seeking the release of all individuals who are detained at Irwin, male and female. So in November, when we first filed the federal litigation challenging the medical abuse and retaliation, there were about 75 to 80 immigrant women detained at Irwin. As of last week, there are no more immigrant women detained at Irwin, no more women detained there at all. As of January, there were about 350 immigrant men detained at Irwin, and as of today, there are fewer than 100. So we are working really hard with a collective of people to try and seek the releases of people who are being detained there. And as you heard from the students, and the work at Irwin is only possible because of incredible organizers in Georgia, as well as phenomenal nonprofit organizations and hardworking law firms, both big and small, who are our partners. We are all so truly grateful to our law students who have shouldered very weighty responsibilities while engaged in high stakes advocacy and litigation. And as you heard from the students, the work can be quite stressful. And finally, before closing, we want to say that we are grateful to each of you. It is an enormous privilege to be part of such a supportive, kind, and generous community of colleagues who work tirelessly day and night to advance social justice and train generations to come. So thank you all so very much.
Wow, this is amazing. Congratulations and thank you, thank you, thank you. We are in awe of the work that you have done, that you and your students in this incredible cross-school, cross-clinic collaboration that we are all inspired by and learning from, and we'll look forward to keep continuing to learn more and are just in awe of the amazing civil rights and immigrant rights advocacy that you have done. So given the remarkable nominations that we received this year, we determined that there are additional 6 projects that we wanted to highlight as honorable mentions. And so we're going to tell you a little bit about these 6 other really significant undertakings, other nominations that we received, and to be able to highlight this additional work. So first, the University of Alabama Domestic Violence Clinic. Between 2017 and 2020, the University of Alabama School of Law's Domestic Violence Clinic, under the supervision of Professor Courtney Cross, represented Geneva Cooley, an elderly survivor of domestic violence who'd been sentenced to life without parole for drug trafficking in 2002. As a result of the domestic violence clinic's advocacy, Ms. Cooley was resentenced from life without parole to life with the possibility of parole in 2019. The case was the first of its kind and paved the way for other prisoners to also be released. Following the resentencing, the domestic violence clinic then successfully represented Ms. Cooley at her parole hearing, and she was released to a transitional home in Alabama. Though Ms. Cooley had lived in Alabama, her entire family, though, was in New York. And through a collaboration, so another beautiful example of cross-school, cross-clinic collaborations, here with the St. John Law School's Consumer Justice for the Elderly Clinic, Ms. Cooley was able to regain ownership of a family property in New York City and to finally return home to New York in fall of 2020. So welcome back home, Ms. Cooley, and thank you and congratulations to the University of Alabama's Domestic Violence Clinic and Professor Courtney Cross. We also honor Duke Law School's Wrongful Convictions Clinic that helped secure the release of Ronnie Long, who'd spent 44 years in North Carolina prisons for a rape he did not commit. The state had convicted Mr. Long by suppressing favorable evidence, including results of tests on evidence from the crime scene that did not implicate him. And this was some of the evidence that ultimately exonerated him. Numerous students working with clinical faculty on the case over 5 years then culminated in a hearing, with this case culminating in a hearing before the entire Fourth Circuit, which was argued virtually due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The case attracted a lot of national and regional media attention that you may have followed, and it helped to really further highlight the many persistent injustices of our system of criminal law, particularly those suffered by Black men. Mr. Long was the 9th client exonerated through the work of the Wrongful Convictions Clinic since it was founded in 2008. So congratulations and thank you for your persistent advocacy that's just so important. We also highlight the Florida State University College of Law Forced Child Labor Project with an honorable mention. In response to the UN declaring 2021 the International Year for the International Year for the Elimination of Child Labor, Florida State University College of Law created the Forced Child Labor Project, which advocates against forced child labor in international supply chains. And the goal of the project is twofold. First, to educate the legal community of the pervasive practice of forced child labor in the goods that we consume. And second, to enforce Section 307 of the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930 that prohibits the importation into the United States of forced child labor goods. And for this project, among the multidimensional advocacy methods, they also created videos. And so we've linked to that within the emails that we've circulated and on our website. I'll turn it to Keely to introduce and to identify the last 3 honorable mentions. Thank you.
Yes, and the next 3 honorable mentions were ones that we wanted to highlight because they exemplify the important role clinics play in providing access to justice, particularly in communities where there are very, very scarce legal resources. And so first up, the University of Detroit Mercy Federal Pro Se Legal Assistance Clinic. That clinic provides limited scope representation to low-income, non-prisoner pro se litigants who have civil cases pending or to be filed in the United States District Court, Eastern District of Michigan, Southern Division. The clinic operates under an administrative order of the court, and prior to its opening in January 2018, low-income pro se litigants were without any free legal assistance options at all. The clinic has since then assisted over 500 individuals and provided more than 10,000 hours of free legal services. And so congratulations and thank you for that work. Next up, the University of Nebraska College of Law Tenant Assistance Project that was developed to change and improve the representation paradigm that exists in landlord-tenant cases. Since the project began a year ago, more than 60 Lincoln area attorneys and several dozen senior certified law students from University of Nebraska College of Law have ensured that every single tenant that appears for an eviction hearing and seeks assistance is provided legal representation. Law students Alan Duggar, Tessa Langland, Sarah O'Neill, and Amy Sonnenfeld were all a significant part of making that project successful and have helped so many low-income families in the Lincoln community. And last but not least, West Virginia University College of Law Immigration Clinic. That clinic is fighting to represent and empower a long underserved immigrant population. There is only one, I said one, other full-time immigration practitioner for a statewide community of 30,000 foreign-born residents and their families. So the immigration clinic is trying with their limited resources to bridge that gap through a uniquely holistic legal practice, community education and resources, and systemic advocacy. They're also working to build a local immigration bar from the group by facilitating attorney membership, developing a CLE certificate program, and recruiting law students who will commit to a local immigration practice. And so thank you again for all of the work that these clinics and projects are doing. All of these recipients will be featured on the CLEA website. And so we encourage you to look there to get more information about all of this terrific work. There's much to be inspired by. And so we miss being together this year, but we look forward to seeing you again next year.
Thank you all so much. That was really incredible. So we wanted to wrap up this ceremony in a high energy way, and we thought what better way to do so than to have Lee speak with all of us about the work of the Per Diem Project. And before I introduce Lee or turn it over to Lee, I just wanted to also recognize the other members of the Per Diem Project, Gauri Krishna, Carla McCanders, and Lenice Panton. Take it away, Lee.
Thank you so much, Anju. And I have done my hair for the first time in months to be able to be here today and talk to you on behalf of the CLEA Per Diem Committee. So for those of you who don't know, since 2003, the CLEA Per Diem Committee has been financially supporting social justice organizations in the city that is hosting our clinical conference. Now, ordinarily, right now, there would be CLEA members going through the ballroom, collecting your money, and we've been accused of strong arming, I won't deny, but certainly encouraging you to support that local organization. But as you know, for the last 2 years, we've been virtual. So what we're asking you to do today is actually to contribute to an organization working in your own community to alleviate the burden for marginalized people. Any organization that you want, a bail fund, a legal aid organization, a food pantry, a mutual aid organization, anybody who's doing the kind of work that is so essential for our clients and our communities right now. We're also asking you to record your donations on a Google form in the link that I've put in the chat. We've already collected $5,415 just from what we've done prior to the conference. Ordinarily at the conference, we're able to double that. This community has given to places like the Homeless Persons Representation Project, the St. Louis Food Bank, Casa Marianela, legal aid societies all over the country. The generosity of this community has never been in doubt. We give with our time, we give to our students, we give in so many ways, and we're asking you to give just one more way. And that's to take the equivalent of a day's per diem, if any of us even knows what that is anymore, and give it to the organization of your choice. We'll get back to you after the conference with our grand total. So that's why we're asking you to record your donation on the link. And as always, thank you, thank you, thank you for all of the many things that you do.
Thank you so much, Lee. Thank you so much, everyone, for your wonderful work. I'm so excited that we got to have this presentation, even if we had to be virtually, do it virtually. Hopefully next year in Orlando, we'll be all back in person. We can give you big hugs and in-person congratulations. Just a shout out, if you want to get involved in CLEA, if you want to be on our awards committee and be part of giving out these awards, please contact Anju and I, CLEA at cleaweb.org. Our website is cleaweb.org. We would love to have you part of our awards committee or any of our wonderful committees. Just so you know, we're always welcoming new members. So Thanks so much for attending. Congratulations again to all of our award recipients. Thank you for all the great work that you do. Thank you, everyone.